This is Chief Eric Shirt. I hope this update finds you and your family in good health. Now that summer is around the corner, I hope your days are restful and peaceful. This update may take a few minutes, so sit back, relax, and I realize that this past year for all of us was stressful and challenging because of COVID. Many of us struggling having to work from home, and for those of us with children, having to deal with the disruptions caused by a period of quarantine. COVID has changed our way of life, in particular our attendance at wakes and funerals of family and friends. We have suffered many losses in the past year, and I want to take this time to express my condolences to those who have experienced the loss. We've had to find alternative ways of grieving and honoring our loved ones who are passed on. My late sister Irene passed away last year, and her husband a few months later, and we had to scale down the memorial that we had planned to have here on the reserve to just immediate family. I would also like to thank the elders and individuals who have offered and given me medicines and protections for my car, my person, and my home. Although some have passed on, I feel honored that they shared their hopes and dreams for our nation with me. I congratulate and thank the COVID response team and everyone in the community for keeping our numbers down. However, we must keep in mind that there are new variants of COVID, and we must continue to be mindful of wearing masks, washing our hands, and keeping physical distances when we can. Myself, I experienced COVID. I thought I was home free and being COVID free for over 2 years, and then I went to a meeting with the government officials, and although I sat 6 feet away from them, the next day they texted me that they had COVID, and sure enough, 2 days later I tested positive for COVID. It is an experience that I do not wish on anybody. So again, we must continue to do our part in wearing our mask, washing our hands, and physically distancing when we can. It is a responsibility as Cree people to look out for each other and our elders, and especially with new COVID variants that continue to spread across Alberta and Canada. I acknowledge that it's been a few months since my last address, but let me be clear. I've been fighting hard to perform my sacred duties as chief. You, the people, have always known that I'm still your chief. The Crown has always known that I'm still the chief of Saddle Lake. But now I'm pleased to announce that after initiating a judicial review of the Council's actions, it is finally recognized that I'm still their chief, and they cannot overturn the election results. That was the will of you, the people of Saddle Lake. This recent development means that I will continue to act on behalf of the people of Saddle Lake. I had expected my band office keys, my band email, my band phones to be returned, as well as complete access to all the financial information, including the GLs, signed contracts, past motions, and past minutes, allowing me to fully execute my responsibilities as chief. These they have not provided. They have locked me out of my office. These behaviors started way before these past couple of years. In 2016, they disallowed me from running for council. And since I was elected as chief, they have continued to these same kind of behaviors. Imagine this. I had 2 meetings with the Minister of Ish. You know how hard it is to get a meeting with the minister? How many chiefs in Alberta had an individual meeting with the minister? I had 2. In both cases, we presented all the things that we required. Schools, treatment center, extended care facility, seniors lodge, roads, Wi-Fi and internet, and numerous other things. None of these counselors would come with me except Darcy McGilvery. They would not come with me to make these presentations of programs that our people need, programs that are important to the health of our nations. They would not come with me. Imagine that they would not represent the interests of the people of Saddle Lake. You elected me because you had hope for a better future and believed in a positive vision for Saddle Lake. Those promises and commitments I made to you during my campaign came from my heart. And I plan on doing everything in my power to deliver the changes you voted for. Everything I have done and will continue to do is for our community. I will not tolerate or turn a blind eye to any corruption, financial mismanagement, or unfair practices. It is not our way to be selfish and to have a what's in it for me attitude. As leaders, we have a sacred responsibility to work for the benefit of all Saddle Lake members, not just ourselves or an elite few. I am confident that the forensic audit will proceed. I will discuss the forensic audit in greater detail later and why it's important for our community. However, my focus is to move forward and improve our quality of life in Saddle Lake. I want to thank our directors and staff that brought forward a lot of great ideas in the organizational review last year on how we can better serve our members. I will introduce and advocate for their ideas because our staff needs to be supported and empowered. We need to create fair working environments free from bullying and harassment. I want to continually hear from people on what we need. I know that we have generations of women and men with life experiences and education who want to uplift our community, our kids, and our families. I would be honored to work with all of you. I think back, growing up in Saddle Lake and interacting with the elders and other members of Saddle Lake. It was a time that's almost unimaginable in terms of the goodwill that was expressed by various elders and various families towards one another and how they worked together. I developed alcoholism at an early age, about 17, 18. But already I had been working with different agencies, the Alberta Native Communication Society. And I had friends who were into sobriety. And I was introduced to them before I developed the disease of alcoholism. When I sobered up, they gave me support, but they also encouraged me in the sense that they said, you can do things. And the thing that happened was, as a result of that, I went to work with service in mind. I went to taught at the University of California in Santa Cruz. We taught counselors all over the Western United States. I came back, started up Palmakers Lodge and Nietzsche Institute, and also Ben Cathro School. I sat down with the federal government to set up 3 treatment centers in Treaty 6, Treaty 7, Treaty 8. I was 26 years old when I started Palmakers Lodge. Think about that. We have a lot of young people with a lot of good ideas and things that would improve the life of our people on the reserve in terms of services that they need. And I encourage those young people, if they want to serve, to run for council and to bring their ideas forward, because we can do these things. I know from experience that this is possible, and that I want to encourage young people to participate in improving the quality of life. Please feel free to contact me or message me with what you would like to work on. And I also want to encourage people who have never served on council but who want to contribute to run for council. And a lot of people will say, you're too young. A lot of people will say, you don't have the experience. But I'd like to make a comment that who can do worse than what has happened in the past, which is almost nothing. Mm-hmm. So I want to encourage you that we can do better. Mm-hmm. With Canada offering significant COVID-related funding streams, Saddle Lake's pending claim settlement of over $100 million and the unmet promises of treaty that we can fight the Crown for, we have so much opportunity over the next year to write our own future. The steps required to protect the future is the forensic audit, transparency and accountability, the foundations of good governance. We must address the lack of financial controls, the cycle of poverty, the shortage of housing, the addiction crisis, and the chronic health issues, and the lack of schools, the bullying and again violence in our nation. We can build a prosperous, sustainable community with more jobs, better internet and cell service, more schools, a new treatment center, more mental health supports, increased social assistance, more home repairs, elders lodging, and accountability and transparency. Deep in our hearts, we know the community and the world that we want. A nation governed by our natural laws that embodies our Cree culture and values. We want a good life where our people can live with pride and dignity and see future generations grow their roots in our community. Whether you're off reserve or on reserve, whether you're a member with full rights today or a Bill C-31, who I hope to get full rights for in the future, now is the time for all of us to dream together. We have our hearts, we have our minds, and we have our hands. It's time to get to work. Stand up, be brave, wherever you are. Vote and vote for change. Now I would like to say a few words about transparency and accountability. They are generally considered the two main pillars of good governance. That again is transparency and accountability. Transparency in the process involves being completely visible and open to scrutiny so that it's clear that nothing is hidden from the people. Everything financial that happens at the band council and program level is your business, you, the members of Saddle Lake. All budgets, contracts, MOUs, monthly financial statements, band council minutes, meetings, call for proposal, new job postings must be made public. This is your business, this is your programs, this is your money. Transparency is about open, honest, accessible communications. Transparency is essential for three purposes: to provide information to our members, to increase participation free from repercussions, to hold our council members and programs accountable. Strong accountability matters. When it works, it benefits everyone. It enables our people to know how our government is doing and how to gain a remedy when things go wrong. It ensures that the chief and council and program staff are acting in the best interest of the people that they serve. Accountability is acceptance of the responsibility for one's own action. It implies a willingness to be transparent, allowing others to observe and evaluate one's performance. In that sense, transparency serves to achieve accountability, which means that our leaders can be held responsible for their actions. Without transparency and accountability, trust will continue to be broken between council and the members of Saddle Lake. And when you look at one of the issues that's facing our nation is lack of laws. If a nation is sovereign, they have their own laws. that they follow and uphold. In our community, we no longer follow our natural laws. We do not follow the laws that do exist, and we lack many laws that we require. Nor do we have the mechanisms to enforce our laws. We do not have consequences for those who break our laws, and we do not have the mechanism in place for community members to bring grievances for justice. Lack of laws favor the bullies. On March 8th, 2021, the federal court issued its decision on my application for a judicial review. The court granted that the application and confirmed that I'm still the chief and was never removed as chief, and that the council acted contrary to Saddle Lake Cree Nation's laws when they tried to remove me. This outcome should have been obvious to council from day one. The court certainly had no difficulty seeing through the arguments put forward by the council. It was not clear why the council would not just acknowledge the obvious, that they have no power to do what they want. Instead of being reasonable and saving everybody the time and the expense of going to court, they made the matter go to court at great expense to the band and to myself. I can't explain why they did that, but you as members have the right to ask your council members why they wasted band funds putting forward such an obviously incorrect legal position. Some of the very useful findings of the court included the finding that ISH had the power to do the forensic audit, and that there was no improper conduct on my part when I received notice about the forensic audit. This is what I've been saying since day one. The court also made the finding that Councillor Eddie Makokis could not provide a coherent response to the questions about the removal and suspension of me. The court also found that council had engaged in a careless exercise of power when they tried to remove me. The decision is a good illustration of the old boys club and how they operate at Saddle Lake. As you will see if you read the decision, the court was extremely critical of council. They should be embarrassed about their conduct. And I'm disappointed that they could not see the flaws of how they acted, and that they required the matter to go to court. In every event, the court confirmed what should have been obvious, that Saddle Lake band members deserve better, and they don't have to tolerate the old boys club doing whatever they want. The court rejected virtually every argument that council tried to put forward. The court confirmed that the council is not my boss, and they have no power to remove me. The Saddle Lake members are my boss, and the conduct of the council was an attempt to subvert the will of the members of Saddle Lake. The council tried to say they were acting on the will of the people. The court saw through this and rejected that argument. You can't call a meeting with 2% of the members with no notice to all the members and say that is the will of the people. It is unfortunate and disappointing that our governance issue have to be decided by the court. However, this becomes necessary when elected members do not understand our laws and do not understand or choose not to understand the limits of what they can or cannot do. Overall, I don't like taking these matters to court because it makes public all our internal governance issue. But due to the conduct of council, I had no other choice. This court decision reaffirms that Saddle Lake is to function as a democracy where the power to select and remove leaders is with the people. Where the council chooses to ignore our own laws and basic democratic principles, I won't hesitate to bring these matters forward and ensure that the rights of the people are respected. Going forward, I need the continued support of members to ensure that we can deliver on the changes that I promised I campaigned on. I want transparency and accountability from our leaders. I believe Saddle Lake members deserve that. I have been attacked by our nation's council and physically threatened. because they want to protect their own personal interests, because the system works for them. While the system does not work for the vast majority of Saddle Lake members, I want to change that, and we can change that. I've heard different lies going in the community, and I want to just comment on that. When the haters start to dislike you, they want others to dislike you. And then the lies begin. Lies like, I sued the band. I did not sue the band. I asked the judge to rule on whether Saddle Lake Council broke our laws, and they agreed with me. And yet there's no consequences for these individuals that have a complete disregard for the will of the people and also for our laws. Now, the next one I want to comment on is the forensic audit. If you are concerned about your health, you go to a doctor. But if you are concerned about the financial health of your organization, you go to an auditor. An ordinary audit is a random sampling of books and records. If you're concerned about something specific being amiss, you get a forensic audit. A forensic audit is a thorough review of the books and records and to see if something is amiss. Indigenous Service Canada, ISH, provides the Saddle Lake Cree Nation with annual funding in excess of $60 million. This is done by way of funding of agreements, which by their terms permit the auditing of Saddle Lake Cree Nation accounts and records. Anyone who funds an organization wants audit rights to ensure the funds they supply are being properly used in accordance with their own funding agreements. ISH wants an ordinary audit to randomly review entries in Saddle Lake books and records every year and may request a forensic audit to investigate whether specific entries in Saddle Lake books and records. Specific entries in the financial records showing unusual or one-of-a-kind disbursements may attract a forensic audit. Because ISH operates outside of Saddle Lake Cree Nation, it will conduct an external audit. And this external audit is at no cost to the band. ISH picks up the costs of these external audits. If Saddle Lake members or counselors that ask for a forensic audit because they are band members, this audit would have been internal. Then the band would have paid for this audit. The advantages of an internal audit is that it doesn't have to be disclosed to outsiders. The advantage is that Saddle Lake can find out if it has problems with its finances without disclosing them to outsiders. The Saddle Lake Cree Nation can then fix its problems without disclosing to outsiders. On the other hand, if the Saddle Lake gets a clean internal audit, it can disclose the forensic audit to whomever it wishes, as evidence that it is doing everything correctly. Where Saddle Lake has signed funding agreements that call for audits, council members cannot oppose these audits. If we attempt to obstruct the audits, it may result in the canceling of funding agreement and the funding that comes with it. Obstruction can also negatively affect all future funding applications for much needed programs. Forensic audits are directed at whether something was done improperly, not who did it or why they did it. It would be in the best interest of Saddle Lake counselors and members to find out if something was done improperly so that if something needs repair, it can be identified and repaired. Many errors are simple mistakes, and one normally wants to fix the mistakes before they grow too large to repair. An audit is not a criminal investigation and should not be confused with one by the auditor or anyone else. A forensic audit is a detailed process resulting in certain types of income, expenditure, asset, liabilities being scrutinized. This critical examination, coupled with the auditors' expertise can then be used by counselors and by council for better financial planning, budgeting, and financial decision making in the future. Again, the forensic audits are directed at whether something was done improperly, not who did it or why did it. It would be in the best interest of Saddle Lake counselors and members to find out if something was done improperly, so that if something needs repair, that it is identified and repaired. Many errors are simple mistakes, and one normally wants to fix these mistakes before they grow too large to repair. These two ideas, in a lot of ways, are in contrast, in that the first idea of going to trial implies some criminal or civil wrongdoings that had happened in the past, while the second idea focuses on fixing policies and systems for the future so that mistakes and wrongdoings are less likely to happen in the future. The future-looking aspect of improving Saddle Lake financial system would be more consistent with hope that we have for our community. Not about targeting community members who may have benefit from some counselors' questionable conduct. Hope is about not standing still by accepting the current flawed system, which put the community future at risk. We should not be afraid of forensic audit. And we've all heard at community meetings counselors saying they have nothing to hide. And if we believe that, we shouldn't be afraid of this forensic audit, because it will help us a lot in the future in terms of, making all the changes that need to be made to improve our financial control. But also, it'll help us improve the transparency that everything regarding our finances is public information. This is information that the people require and should have, without question. Now, there's a lot of things that we need to do, to bring about the change that is required to create hope in our community. One, we need to create our own laws. I'll go through them briefly. A treatment center, a place where people can regain their health that have the disease of alcoholism and drug addiction. And we know that most people want to help, but currently right now help is near impossible. And we need to do it on a scale that will have an impact on our community. And these individuals, whenever they get the disease of alcoholism, they withdraw. We need to bring them back. We need to recover their health. But also, we need to help them get their kids back and their families rebuilt. And we need to also create meaningful partnership with our neighboring nations and organizations. This council resigned from Treaty 6. Treaty 6 was made by the chiefs of all of Treaty 6 area. They worked together to work out the terms. We are part and parcel of that Treaty 6. We need to work with the other chiefs of Treaty 6. We need to work with Tribal Chiefs Association. Again, we withdrew. We're isolating. One of the things I've learned is that you learn a lot from working with other chiefs and other counselors in terms of what is working, what is really helpful, and what are the opportunities out there. Just think of this. Mackay earns more money from its businesses than they receive in funding from ISH. Cold Lake last year made $150 million from their relationships with other nations and various businesses. Blood Reserve has a multi-million-dollar contract to ship products to Japan, South Korea, Taiwan. They have their own station where they fill up the rail cars to ship this product to these countries. They have windmills. They have, just huge industries. Blackfoot Reserve, the same thing. Alexis Reserve, Alexander Reserve, They're forging relationships that is creating wealth in their community, and it benefits everybody. We need to get leaders in there that are willing to do that. We also have to start minimizing the poverty crisis on the reserve through community gardens, food banks, shelters. We need people who are good at grant and proposal writing for housing or local agribusiness interests. We need to be supporting and encouraging our entrepreneurs and people who want to be entrepreneurs, because they create wealth and they create employment opportunities for other members. It's to everybody benefit to support these, and we must do that, and we must call on the young people to get involved in these things. A seniors lodge and extended care facility, we need those programs. Why are they important? Because they create wealth. A seniors lodge will be there for 100 years providing good service to people, but not only that, it will employ people and the funding will be there for the next 100 years. Treatment centers, same thing. A 60-bed treatment facility, you'll have over 50 workers that will be employed there. But the funding will be $7 to $8 million, and that'll be there for the next 100 years. And that money will circulate in our community. But the most important thing, it provides the care that our members need that have the disease and illness of alcoholism. We need additional schools. Think about this. The meeting that we had with the minister, when was the last time we got 21 houses? In the last 20 years, funded by the federal government. It wasn't by accident. When was the last time in the last 40, 50 years that we got a new school? It wasn't by accident. It was from the lobbying exactly to the minister and bringing these cases to them and arguing that these things be funded and that we need them. Okay? We need improved child care services. We are losing kids. We need to get them back. But not only that, we need to rebuild the family so that they can continue providing the care. We know those mothers and those fathers do not like to lose their kids. But they're sick with the disease of alcoholism. That's what happens. We need asset mapping. We need to identify our human resources and our knowledge holders. We need the inclusion of off-reserve members. We need urban offices. And again, I want to go back to that wealth creation because it creates opportunity and benefits everybody. We need recreation programs. I know we're good at sponsoring our friends to go to golf tournaments. Listen, we need hockey programs. We need baseball programs. Saddle Lake was famous for its hockey team. Saddle Lake was famous for its baseball teams. We need programs for young people to get them into sports. Now I want to acknowledge that I'm not into conflict, that my intention is for positive change of inclusivity. I do not want to create divisions. The position of chief is not to micromanage the boards. It's not to micromanage the businesses and the departments, but rather to act as an advocate on behalf of the people, to advocate for better funding agreements, to build meaningful relationships that create economic and social opportunities for our members, and to hold the federal government accountable for the terms of our treaties that our ancestors negotiated for us. And more importantly, the position of chief is to be a public servant to the people of Saddle Lake. I am still your chief, and despite not having access to my office, I'm still working on a range of issues on your behalf. And you are welcome to reach out to me by phone or email to discuss your ideas about our community and other issues that concerns you. I want to encourage the community of Satellite to have faith that we as a people will come to a successful resolution that benefits our nation. I want to encourage again, young people, we need you. We need you to develop the skills, and if you have the skills, to come and work on the things that we require to improve our community. I can't say that enough, that we need people who have never served on council, and if you have ideas, to come forward, because we can do it. I have at times been discouraged and wondered if the personal sacrifice I have made to bring transparency and accountability to our community is worthwhile. I have meditated and prayed for guidance. I was answered with a dream that brought me peace and renewed my energy. I dreamt I was walking from the bush towards my house through the sweet-smelling prairie wool. I heard a rustle behind me, and I saw a young buffalo calf. The calf came and walked beside me. I woke up from that dream feeling refreshed and energized. And that is the message I want to give to people, is that we can do this. We can bring about the changes that are going to benefit everybody in our community as a whole. And I encourage you to contact me and discuss your ideas. Thank you again.